Jim Hill, KKL9 News here
Hey,
in Los
Jim.
Angeles. Congratulations. Good to see you again. I see the smile that's on your face. Is that just a small example of how excited you and your teammates are to be here?
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, I watched you growing up, so it's always good to see you, Jim. No, this is obviously very special for us. It's something that we worked very hard for, so we're looking forward to being here and looking forward to competing.
Far back, Gerrit. Bill Plunkett in the middle.
Yeah, Gerrit, all the way back here, fellow Orange County. And a lot of the statistics are very similar between the Yankees and Dodgers offenses, chase rate, home runs, slugging especially. What's the challenge of facing a lineup like that with plate discipline and power?
I mean, I think the challenge is you know, trying to just be convicted to every pitch. You know, you're not really sure what the opposition's going to do, and you know that they're lethal when they do swing. So, you know, you gotta give every pitch a chance. You know, by fully committing to it, and you know, so be it if the ball gets hit. Hopefully, you take those situations and you learn from them, just like you do when you have success.
Second row on your left, Gerrit. Barry.
Hey, Gerrit. Barry Bloom. How are you?
Hey, Barry.
So a couple of years ago, when Judgy was about to go to free agency, you were pretty vociferous about wanting him to stay. Do you feel the same way about Soto? And have you had any conversations with him? Are you trying to lobby him at all yet?
I've left him alone in terms of that. You know, I certainly would love to see him stay. I think he's a wonderful player, an amazing talent. You know, and hopefully, you know, the actions of the organization, both of his teammates and everybody, you know, that pours into this club speak for themselves in terms of, you know, how much we want him and you know, what he means to us, especially while he's here.
And not wanting to take anything away from anybody else, but do you consider that he's the major reason why you're here this year? And last year you had an 82-80 season?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, obviously, Aaron being healthy all year has played a huge role as well, and the rotation has been fantastic. I mean, there's a lot of credit to be, you know, divvied up amongst all the players. I mean, it always takes a full 26-man roster to get to this position, and you never know who's going to contribute in big games as we go forward. But, you know, to say that Juan has been extremely consistent and extremely potent throughout the entire season is. He's definitely done that for us, and that's been something that we've had to lean on at times, and at times, you know, really enjoy, you know, the fruits of his labor.
Same row, a bit to your left, Brian.
Gerrit, Boone said he thinks this team has been like a family. What do you think it is about this team's culture that has been special?
You know, I think our communication is high. I think, you know, we're really honest with each other about our emotions and about our feelings. I think that we are, you know, really connected in the way that we play. We try to learn from our mistakes and just have open conversations about those things. And I think, you know, when you have that type of closeness with your teammates, that's the kind of stuff that fosters relationships, you know, that translate both to playing well and also having friends or family for a long time.
Row behind, or Brendan, then the row behind, sorry.
Hey, Gerrit. The Dodgers are similar to you guys in that they have a row of superstars in their lineup. You guys have Judge, Soto, Stanton. They have Ohtani and Betts and Freeman. Just being a pitcher, do you have to prepare yourself differently mentally before you face that lane?
I mean, ideally, no. Ideally, you're prepping for every game the same way. You obviously know of the talent and know of the, you know, the prowess of the other team and how they can swing the bat with high efficacy. I think that they are going to get their hits at some point this series. They are good players, and they obviously, you know, have played really well to this point. So I think, you know, similar to the first question, like, you just try to control what you can control in that situation. That's preparing like you normally do, and, you know, throwing as many convicted pitches as you can.
Third row on your right, Anthony.
Hey, Gerrit. Right here. Starting pitcher injuries were so prevalent this year, you know, even amongst the really good teams. What does it mean to have gotten this far, this deep, with a full rotation intact, and what kind of difference could that make in this series?
Yeah, I mean, I personally experienced some of that myself for the first time, and I feel really grateful and thankful to everybody that's poured in to me to be able to get me to this position. As far as the rest of our rotation, it goes without saying that Nestor led the cart for us all year, throwing the most amount of innings and putting us in a good position, through the ups and downs of other people being injured. Carlos has obviously had a fantastic bounce back season. Luis is in consideration for Rookie of the Year. Clark Schmidt has been in a similar situation as mine where he's had to bounce back. So I think there's been a lot of, obviously positive performances and then some performances that have had to come back from some adversity. So I think that makes us, really well poised to continue to do, what we've been doing all year, through this next week.
Questions in your left third row, Andy.
Gerrit, you've got a lot of experience with how your body and your arm are supposed to feel deep into October. Do you feel any different now, even fresher, or are there challenges or anything based on starting your season a little later?
No, I'm ready to go. I would also like to add Marcus. Marcus obviously had a great season for us in reference back to that last question. And for you, Andy, I feel good to go. I'm in a good spot.
We'll stay there with Gary and then Ron.
Gerrit, you were a Friday night starter, not too far from here. Just what did you learn about being a big game pitcher at UCLA?
I think the challenge in big games is to make them really, no bigger than they really are. It's the same game that we've been playing all year. I feel like, to a certain extent, I really enjoy these moments. Just personally, I think that's, maybe part of experiencing a lot of them along the way, but also just the excitement that comes with competing against the best. And I guess, in UCLA, having pitched big games there and going through my career, it's been a wealth of experience that I've enjoyed.
We'll stay there with Ron.
Going back to your previous series experience, was there any difference in attitude or approach between games 1 and game 5?
In
19.
We made an adjustment between game 1 and game 5. Juan kind of did his thing in the first game, which, that's kind of tough to, like a lot of people, it's kind of tough to compete against sometimes when the big dogs are doing their thing. But, we made a good adjustment going into game 5, and we learned from our mistakes in game 1.
Was it just mechanical stuff, or was it attitude, or the way you approached it?
It's a little bit of everything.
The second row on your right, Gerrit.
Thank you, Jesus Aguilera from Fox Sports. What did Fernando Valenzuela's death means to you? Again, previously World Series between Yankees and Dodgers.
Yeah, I was really saddened to read about it the other day. I can't recall if I think I had met him in passing maybe once or twice, and I had heard that, there was maybe a bit of an issue a few weeks ago, but, I didn't know much about it. So I was taken off guard, and I was deeply saddened. He's one of the great Dodgers of all time, one of the great Mexican players of all time, and he's a legend. And, it's just sad he won't be here for this series, but he's probably got a great seat for it upstairs.
And the first row.
Gerrit, Darren Haynes, KCAL. There's a bunch of local guys on both teams like yourself. What can you say about the talent that comes out of this area, and then for yourself playing in the World Series in an area that you grew up in?
Yeah, it is a dream come true. It's a really wild experience, to be honest. Probably hasn't sunk in all the way. Southern California is a hotbed for talent. The blessing is that we can play baseball all year. So there's always time to work on your game. Sometimes, actually playing all year may not be super beneficial, but, for the most part, it's a collection of great talent, which I think, it's really easy to see sometimes the cream that rises to the crop, and that's why you see a lot of great players come out of this area.
And a quick follow-up, your manager said if you go to USC, you're a Trojan for life. If you go to UCLA, you're a Bruin for 4 years. What's your take on that?
Yeah, Aaron and I don't always agree on everything.
We'll stay in that row with Jake.
Hey, Gerrit. That time away that you spent kind of at the beginning of the season dealing with your arm injury, was there anything you learned about yourself or about the game of baseball from kind of having to take that time off?
Yeah, I mean, I had, I had a few interesting experiences and new perspectives that I otherwise hadn't had. Obviously, when we were at home, I was at all the games. But when the team goes on the road for 9 or 10 days, and you're playing with your kids every day and you're doing rehab, just the speed of the game, you kind of lose a little bit of feel for that, and you kind of lose a little bit of feel for the stresses or the ups and downs that emotionally the club is going through. So. Coming back into some games off the road trip is a really interesting perspective to just kind of view the game like very freshly and not be tainted with, some of the emotions that have been going on in the clubhouse or really just seeing the speed of the game. I found myself, feeling really blessed a lot of times to just take in a lot of the great players that we have, and see the game from just like, more of a, less of like a tactical, less like tactical and I guess like analytical for lack of a better word, but just like fresh and like this is just a baseball game, and watching body language and seeing how people are going about it, almost like like if you were taking your kid to a baseball game for the first time, like that experience is really raw and is rooted a lot in like the body language and the competitiveness of the players. And so that was a perspective that was nice to have, and hopefully I learned some things from it. Yeah.
Do 2 more quick ones in the third row on your right.
Hey, Gerrit, you mixed in a few sinkers against the Guardians in that Game 2 start. Do you see that pitch playing a role against some of the Dodgers righties?
Yeah, I mean, I see I foresee myself doing whatever's necessary to get the out.
Finish up about 8 rows back on your right.
Right here. Hey, Gerrit. Ray from Extra TV. Of course, you're on a team that's full of superstars and MVPs, but how do you guys keep each other grounded on and off the field, especially entering a stage like the World Series?
That's a great question. I think I think it comes down to the way that we prepare to do, kind of the mundane things. I think our leaders set a great example in going about their business every day and taking a professional and focused approach. Ideally, that permeates throughout the rest of the group, and there's opportunities for everybody on this team to be a leader at any different time. But there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and if you're taking, those reps at a championship level, preparing yourself for, trying to have championship execution while you're on the field, I think that's really what keeps you grounded, because the lights aren't on you, the TVs aren't on you, there's no glory while you're grinding in the cage. But if you go about your business the same way, it just kind of builds a connectivity between the two.